What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of the Try Life On podcast. I'm talking to my boy, Dan Pierson of Pierson Travel. Dan is a really interesting guy, but he is trying life on like nobody's business. He and I met through a company called Unsettled. I'm on their board of advisors, and we've been connected for years, but we've never really gotten to know each other. And then I started to realize that he is doing amazing things that you listeners want to do. He has left W-2, come in and out. He is developing property in Mexico. He's ridden his bike across the US. He's walked across Cuba. Man, he's had corporate roles at Lyft, but he recognizes that he's entrepreneurially minded. I love, and please pay attention to when he talks about his intersection of values. He looks for opportunity. He looks for opportunity to be out in the world, out and about meeting people, building relationships, having experiences. And he talks about his faith. And part of his faith is repairing. He's Jewish, and part of his faith, he talked about repairing the world and giving back to the world more than we take from it. There are a lot of you who are in corporate now, for example, or who are doing something entrepreneurial, and it is very difficult for you to tear away from that thing because you feel a sense of security. In a lot of ways, in this very broad-reaching conversation, what I recognize about Dan is that his security is that he is not secure. He knows how to jump from thing to thing without fear, even if it puts him in a situation where he's financially broke for a little while or what have you. And I think that's the power of this brother and what he is doing. I hope you enjoy this very, very wide-reaching conversation with my man, Dan Pierson, who is in Mexico, in Oaxaca. Man, it was a great conversation. Enjoy it. Thank you for listening to the Try Life On podcast. What is the project in what is the project? Like, fill me in on what you are doing and how you are trying life on, man. And we're just shooting the breeze in this conversation. The whole premise and why you're so intriguing to me. There are people, a lot of the listenership of the podcast and the people that I interact with, man, they're all trying to find ways to do life in their own manner. Status quo pulls them back in. Family tells them, hey, don't do that. That doesn't make sense. I'm too afraid of taking risks. Or they're following someone else's definition of success. I need to be an executive VP, where they damn well know that all they want to do is like do pottery sitting in Florida or something like that, right? What is it that you're doing, and how did you get kind of the chutzpah to go get it done like that?
Sure. Well, I mean, one thing I've respected over the 5 years or so that I've known you is just how you've accomplished so much and how it's seemingly happened at the same time across your career as a police officer, a military officer, obviously the real estate, your work with Accenture. So I think I've had a lot of those experiences. They've just been non-linear, so they haven't happened at the same time. I'm an early riser, but I don't think I get up as early as you, man. But yeah, really out of college, I wanted to travel. I wanted to explore. I moved down to Buenos Aires, started an internet marketing agency, hiring folks who had also moved down there to teach English, but couldn't really find opportunities. So I was out there searching for US companies that needed marketing help and hiring primarily Americans down in Buenos Aires. And that was the most money I've ever made to date, man. I was like 23, really working the 4-hour work week before, Tim Ferriss got there.
Yeah.
He just did a better job of putting it on the internet. From there, became very interested in technology, particularly collaborative consumption and like the sharing economy. That was super big back in the early 2010s. So I moved to San Francisco on a whim, packed up everything in my truck from Denver and drove out, with 3 days notice to join a seed stage company that was helping make rental really easy. So trying to connect folks to rental stores as opposed to having to go on Amazon and buy a drill you're going to use once in your life. And that really started my career in Silicon Valley. I worked at Lyft very early when Lyft was in 6 cities and helped them grow to 50 cities across the United States.
So wait, you go from college, you were in college in Denver, or you're from Denver?
No, I'm from New York originally. I took some time off after high school, which I think was very formative. And that really set me on this nomadic path because I took a semester off. I traveled to Alaska and then Australia and New Zealand, came back, didn't know what the hell I wanted to do with my life, went to a cheap state college in upstate New York, realized that was not for me, transferred down to Tulane in New Orleans. And I got down there on August 27th, 2005, 2 days before the hurricane. So yeah, hitchhiked out of New Orleans up to Indiana, spent a semester in Bloomington and back down to New Orleans. So really I took a semester off, and then it was 3 colleges and 3 semesters. Wow. Alongside a lot of travel in between, during like the summers and time off. So I've lived a lot of different places, man. Buenos Aires, New Orleans, Colorado, San Francisco, grew up in New York. Now I've been in Mexico for 7 years. So really quite a bit of change and transition. And to get back to your original question, I think that's what really developed this muscle. I would never say I'm fearless. Everybody has fears, but I'm very unafraid to just throw myself off a cliff and build the airplane on the way down.
Yeah. Kind of Steve Harvey talks about that all the time. But where is it in your family blueprint to do that? Or did you just develop it on your own? Where does that thought process come from? For me, it came from my dad sending me overseas to live with an exchange student. And then his dad, I was 15 years old in 1990. His dad drove us around France in an old Range Rover for 30 days. And as an inner city Haitian kid, like that it just fundamentally changed who I was as a person. Was it something in your upbringing or family life that made you think this way?
Probably not, to be honest. My mom was like you. She was a police officer for 30 years in just north of New York City. She's a probation officer. My dad was an entrepreneur. If I'm being honest, and he'd probably tell you the same thing. He just never really hit it. He had a lot of success in the stock exchange in the 80s, and then tried a lot of different things, and eventually found his calling as a computer programmer. But that kind of risk taking, I guess, from the perspective of personal risk taking, like both of my brothers and my sister as well. I'm the youngest, and they forged the way in terms of big bicycle tours and going to live in Indonesia and going to live in Israel. And so the travel bug, I think I probably caught some of from them. But as far as entrepreneurship, I think I'm not a good employee, man. I can't do it. I've tried it so many times, and I can do it when I'm working for the right people, but I think it's just hard for me to not have the freedom to really explore what I want to go out and pursue. Yeah.
But being a good employee or being an employee in general, there's that stability factor, right? There's the 2 steady paychecks. There's the health insurance. I mean, it's not all money. It's having a place to go every day, having a sense of purpose, being around people every day. Does that fear not set into you when you're kind of doing the entrepreneurial stuff that you do?
I mean, you led off with money, and boy, I've been broke for so long, just pursuing different business ventures, taking the time off that I needed to pursue my own personal exploration. So, I mean, I view money as a tool, right? Like money is not the end all be all. I think we share that same perspective. That said, it's an absolutely necessary function. And particularly, I know a lot of your listeners focus on real estate, and there are ways to get into real estate, I think, without any cash. But it's a lot easier when you have, just some starting capital. And we can get into that because I've been a failed real estate developer. I think probably most people who get into this have, now God willing, I'm gonna be a very successful real estate developer. But, as far as working on a team, like I love working on teams, and I consider everyone to be my partner who I work with, from partners who own the same share of my business down to the folks who, are doing the work on the ground. Like everybody's a partner. And I think I love being part of a team, and I love having that accountability. I like people looking to me and expecting me to get things done because I'm prolific and I get shit done. So yeah, I think it's just a question of prioritization, and like, when you're an entrepreneur, it all falls on your shoulders. All falls on your shoulders.
It does. You're everything. You're HR. You're the guy out doing the work. You're the gal who's doing the data entry. It's everything. So what is it exactly that you're doing, and how did you get there? I know you're in Mexico for 7 years now, but give me a sense of what's happening.
Sure. So let's see, that would have been August of 2014. I left my role at Lyft. I was a growth marketing manager there, helping them launch cities across the United States. I started taking 30-minute walks around San Francisco. Then I started taking hour-long walks, started taking 2-hour-long walks. And I said, I just can't be in the office anymore. So I left that job, rode my bicycle from Washington State down to Florida, across the United States. Then I spent 4 months walking across Cuba, which is a really formative experience, really interesting time. And then I was just dead ass broke, man. All my savings were gone. I was living in my mom's basement. It was December. That would have been 2015. So I was searching for really shittier jobs than I'd had, making less money, working at less exciting companies, but doing the same thing. And December, call it 20th, rolled around. Nobody's answering my emails. All the recruiters are already in vacation mode. So I found a very cheap ticket one way to Mexico. And I'd been
not knowing
really,
where you were going, or not knowing what was the next plan or whatever like that.
The plan really was to come back mid-January, having had some chance to recharge, re-energize, and just get back on the job hunt. So I arrived in Mexico City on December 25th on Christmas. Beautiful Zocalo, the downtown center, just lit up for Christmas. I just fell in love with the country and had some friends recommend that I go down to Oaxaca. So I spent a few days in Oaxaca City, beautiful, historic, colonial city with the cathedrals and restaurants and just a really, really wonderful place. And then I came down to the coast of Oaxaca, where I'm talking to you from now. And that would have been right around New Year's Eve, right? 2015 going to 2016.
Yeah,
exactly. And I just found there's nowhere to stay. So I hid my stuff behind a bush and slept in a hammock on the beach. And 6 months later, I was still here, so never bought the ticket back, so to speak. And that was 7.5 years ago now. And really, it's changed my life in so many different ways. I've continued to work for and partner with different US companies, and most of my clients across different businesses come from the United States or Europe, but
that's how you steadied yourself. That's how you took care of yourself. You were still doing marketing stuff, but in a virtual position, if you will.
Exactly. So freelancing, I was living in a little hut that cost $300 a month, keeping costs really low. That was the start. And then from there, I've done lots of different things, some of them more successfully than others, but that was really when I left the United States, was at the end of 2015.
Yeah. Was there ever any thought of going back to kind of the traditional W-2, if you will?
Yeah. I mean, I have at points, I mean, you and I met through Unsettled. Unsettled bought my travel company. What happened there, and this is a good story for people who work on deals, because deals are fragile. You probably know that. So, the example of this here, it was one of the most probably important moments of my life, was November of 2019. I'd been running a travel company called Bolt for several years, really investing my heart, my soul, all of my funds, my money, and got it to a place where I signed a term sheet with 2 investors in Los Angeles where they were investing $500,000 to buy 20% of my business, which on paper made me a millionaire, right? Because I own the other 80%. So after years of the struggle, you can imagine, it was like hitting the holy grail. Like, these guys want to help me build my business. So I was in LA in, January, February of 2020. We were whiteboarding, branding exercises, and preparing to really put some rocket fuel on this thing, onto a business that was already really working. Flew back to Mexico March 1st, 2020. You can probably see where this story is going. And I was just imploring the lawyers, please, just my lawyer, please, let's get this figured out. Because the term sheet was non-binding. And until they send the cash, until it hits your bank account, I mean, it's not real. And March, probably 6th or 7th, I was sitting in my apartment in Mexico City as, the pandemic started to spool up, and fear and really hysteria, I think, overtook, the entire world, and got that really crushing email that those guys were pulling out. And it was just crushing. I can still feel it, like my soul or my stomach kind of sink thinking about it. I just went out for 3 hours and took a walk with myself, and I didn't even take any money. I just walked out of my dorm in Mexico City and went to the Chapultepec. It's a big park there, and just stumbled around for 3 hours, and that was the start of a very difficult experience of 3 or 4 months living the pandemic alongside everyone else, but also having, lost my business. And that's when Unsettled, where you and I met, those guys bought my business, and I became the CMO of Unsettled. So I was W-2 over there,
Yeah, no, I get that. And I'll put it in the intro, but for what Dan's talking about, for people who are listening, I'm a traveler. You guys know that for sure. And the way that I met Dan was I joined this group called Unsettled. Check them out. They're pretty good. It's beunsettled.co. But essentially, there are people in life like me and Dan are great examples who are a bit unsettled with the mainstream way of living and are trying to connect with amazing humans around the world. I went on a couple trips with Unsettled. One was to Lebanon. The other one was to Bali. And I interacted with you, Dan, because you were doing some marketing stuff. I didn't realize that they had bought you out, but I knew you were working for them or what have you. But man, I just kind of want to call out like the resilience that you have. I think this is what people are afraid of, right? You have the ability to create something and move from it or sell it or try something on, try life on, if you will, practice life, go back to freelance marketing just to get a salary, then start a company, then sell your company. The personal risk that you have been taking, to me, has filled your life book with experiences that 95% of people will never get. And they will just go the normal status quo route. I'm not saying it's for everybody at all, but I'm saying that you are certainly full of rich experiences and relationships relative to your journey. I think you would agree with that.
Absolutely. And I'll give you 2 data points that further that, right? So one, and I'm a real person, man. I don't hold anything back. I told you I'm broke. I'm broke because I'm land rich and I'm cash poor, bro. You know how that goes because I'm a real estate developer now. So I'll tell you one more thing. I mean, during the pandemic, those first 3 months, I went to live with my brother in Atlanta or Athens, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. He took me in, he let me live there for free, but I was essentially catatonic because I'd lost my home in Mexico, all my friends. I was going through the pandemic, which was a very traumatic time, really for everyone.
Yeah.
I'd also lost my business. So I would just take, 4 or 5 hour walks and just sweltering heat. That was just my experience. So like, it can be very difficult, but the flip side of that is, we were talking about travel just a moment ago. So I'll take a sec to plug my travel business. I'm just back from Southern Africa. So I started a new business after I left Unsettled. That's called Pierson Expeditions. And we focus on rooftop tent camping safaris in Botswana, Zimbabwe, and now Kenya. And that business is growing. The relationships that I have, the experience that I have, the itineraries that I have, the content that I have, all of that is born out of the years of sweat that I put into Bolt. And it's just opportunities abound everywhere. I think now that I'm 36, I'll be 37 in 2 weeks. You just have to realize you got to look for the opportunities that compound. You got to look for you can't just be jumping from thing to thing to thing unless you're maybe Elon Musk. You can do SpaceX and then Twitter, and you got PayPal in your back pocket and Tesla obviously kicking ass. So like all the things that I'm trying to do now, we'll talk about Mexico. Because that's where my money is. That's where my attention is. Yeah. And that's the result really of 7 or even 10 years, consulting for Airbnb, working for Unsettled, having my own travel companies. When I'm living in Mexico for 7 years, as you mentioned, all of that is the result of compounding, which, now God willing puts me in a place to just go out and smash what I'm doing here.
That's it, brother. It's compounding experiences, compounding relationships. People don't realize that time actually allows you to compound your level of living. And, you said something that I want to highlight, or you alluded to it, but I want to highlight it. The development work that I'm doing yes, I tend to talk about real estate because I'm a real estate guy, but the development work that I'm doing in the Mediterranean now is not money related per se. It is much more so. Look, man, I'm a New York born, Boston raised, DC living, East Coast brother through and through. But I've done the East Coast. I know the East Coast. I'm not learning on the East Coast no more, right? So the reason I started that stuff, and I want people to understand this, you can pick a business relative to life-related goals. People think that it's about money. It's not about money. It's that I wanted to live a Mediterranean lifestyle before I punch off this planet. And I do want to hear what you're doing in Mexico, because I know that it suits who you are as a person. I know that it suits your lifestyle and how you want to grow as a human and the experiences that you want to have. But I think that people have this illusion that anytime somebody starts a business, it's just for money. And in a lot of cases, it's just to try life on the way that you want to try it. So maybe you can kind of just walk through why you're doing development down in Mexico and what it's doing for you.
Sure. I mean, boy, is it nice when all of those things just meet in the middle.
Yeah.
And you have the intersection of your values, right? I'm a very values driven individual. That gets to my grandfather, rest in peace, who's a Holocaust survivor. He came over from Europe after the war with $75, his wife and my 2-week-old dad in tow. And started out sewing buttons onto pants in a factory, and rose to be from just a worker, a guy on the line, to then assistant foreman and manager and general manager. And then he owned his own factories. And then he went over to Europe and did business. So he really, that's the American dream. So a lot of my values around work, being a fucking hard worker, I'm a very hard worker. But also wanting to support people, and wanting to see people come up with me. To me, opportunity is the best thing that you can give someone, because then they can lift themselves up. If you really do it right, you give people families, and you look at multi-generational, how families succeed, it's through education. So when somebody has a good job, they can put their kids through school. And that's especially important in places where you work,
no doubt.
And Mexico certainly as well. So my value system is really centered around opportunity. But then I like to have fun, man. I like to adventure. I'm a traveler. Like you, I've been blessed to travel all around the world. And then, you got to make money too, man. Of course, I'm driven by particularly ambition is something that I question myself on. I'm an ambitious guy, but I know that I have to keep it in check to an extent, because you can't be out there doing everything. But the more capital you have, really, we live in capitalism, the more a capitalist system, the more money you have, the more opportunity you have to go out and do good. I'm a Jew, and Jews, a fundamental part of Judaism is called tikkun olam, and it's like repairing the earth, right? Repairing the world.
Repairing the earth.
The world, yeah, through good deeds.
Nice.
So, and I mean, every belief system has something like that. Obviously, Christianity, Islam, and it's just whether you follow it or not. But I try to so it's really the intersection, right, of my values, me wanting to go out and have a really good time, and then going out and hopefully making some money. And those three things, I think, have really intersected in Mexico to a point where I said I'm all in, and now I'm building down here on the coast of Oaxaca.
What are you building?
So it's a great question. So residential and commercial, so mixed use real estate project.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll start with the location. That's probably helpful. So I'm down on the coast of Oaxaca, in between Puerto Escondido and Huatulco. So it's really the hottest, in my opinion, opportunity in Mexico. Mexico in general saw tourism just soar during the pandemic, because the Mexican government never required a COVID test to enter. That coincides with Tulum, Cancun, Playa del Carmen, the Riviera, just awful, oversaturated, just destroying the environment there, busy, traffic, everything. So a lot of that same tourism has now come to Oaxaca, and it's an opportunity to do it right, for the people who care. It's an opportunity to develop in the right way. So I'll start with the commercial, because that's probably maybe more interesting to listeners, and it takes a lot of my experience, right? So you mentioned Unsettled, their core product, right? Unsettled, the company, 30-day retreats around the world for people who can work from anywhere. They set you up with co-working space, set you up with a place to live, and a set of intentional experiences over the 30 days that show you this new way of working, right? This new way of living, this new way of traveling. And I mean, not just after the pandemic has exploded. How many of the folks listening right now can take their work anywhere they want to go, right?
Right,
whether
right.
W-2 or whether they're 1099. So my company is called Vibra. The real estate development company is called Vibra. And our commercial development is what I call
how do you spell Vibra? Vibra?
Vibra. V-I-B-R-A. Yeah, so it's Vibe. It's Vibe. In Spanish.
Okay, Vibra. Yeah. Right on. Okay, yep.
So we're building from the ground up one of the world's first facilities that's designed. It's not a hotel. I never call it a hotel. It's a hospitality concept that's designed for people who want to come stay for 30 days or more. And really, that means the design and build is different, right? Because I'm not building a hotel room. I'm building accommodation that is designed for people to live there, right? Yeah. For 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. And really what gets me excited is that A, it matches this new way of traveling and living, but B, it really gives you the opportunity to integrate into the local community, right? Because like,
Yeah.
I like deep travel. I like slow travel. I like the opportunity to get to know people like you have in Lebanon. You know, you've been there so many times that you have the opportunity to really be part of that community.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing here. Like this, I live at a hotel here. As I'm building, I live at a hotel called El Copal there for 6 months. And like, I'm part of this community. So that's really the concept, is like medium term stay, right? On the commercial side. So it's got a restaurant, it's got a pool, it's got a co-working space, and it's got the property I'm working on now. We're building 6 cabanas that are going to be really, really just designed for people to come down and have a wonderful medium term stay. So that's on the commercial side, right? On the residential side, what I'm doing, and it's about a 3-minute walk from the commercial side. The residential development I'm working on, about 2,600 square meters. And I'm subdividing into 6 lots where my business partner, he's a Mexican guy. He's built all over Mexico. He's a legend, just a big, big thinker. That's what I love about him, is he's just a big, big thinker. So together we're subdividing and selling lots, and then we're going to custom build homes using traditional materials primarily. So bamboo, and each of those lots will be about 400 square meters. The property is stunning. It's got a 35-foot cardone cactus at the very center of it. So all of the homes are going to have that as a focal point. And that'll be a communal meeting space. And those folks will have elevated access to the commercial space as well. So they'll go hang out at the pool and the co-working space and all those things.
How did you find your partner? Because look, I'm thinking about my journey, the way that I've started development over in the Eastern Mediterranean is because I have a business partner that lives there. He understands the culture. He speaks the language, and he's just teaching me. Like, I have learned more. Like, there's no way a business school could even touch what I've learned in the last 18 months. But everyone struggles finding a partner. Who's skilled and adept at that thing? How did you find your partner to help you do this?
It's an excellent question. So I'll start by saying, when I wake up in the morning, it's not the first thing or the second thing I think about, but like, I'm the opposite of the white guy that comes to Mexico and wants to build a hotel. So I'm bilingual. Having learned, my parents are not Latino, so I didn't learn Spanish in the house, but I learned Spanish just on the street, basically, over the past 10 or 15 years. You know, I've lived in Mexico 7 years. I know how things go here. I know how to navigate both, you know, the lawyer's office in Mexico City, and I also know how to navigate the job site. So, you know, across really all parts of it, I try to just be really, really smart about, you know, setting up unfair advantages. One of my advisors is the former mayor of the town where we're building. You know, government relations, obviously huge. So I'm getting roundabout back to your question of how so my business partner, his name is Daniel. He has the same name as me. He's a 50-year-old gentleman. You know, he's been around the block about 30 times. He's one of the most interesting people that I've ever met in my life. Like, a quick anecdote, when he was 9 years old, from Mexico City, this is probably 1986, he had the dream of going to Patagonia, right? So he's 9 years old. He hopped on a bus to Puebla, changed at the terminal, down to Oaxaca, another bus to Chiapas and the Guatemalan border. He gets there, and the Guatemalan migration officer is like, "What the hell are you doing? Your kid had to, you know, fly the dad down to come and pick him up." And that just started his big thinking about, liberty and freedom are his kind of sirens, you know, the things that he follows. So I met him on Airbnb, man. I met him in Veracruz. So I'm down on the coast of Oaxaca, Pacific coast. I was living in Jalapa in Veracruz, which is about an 11-hour drive from here. And he has a development up there that he's been working on. It's his passion project, and it's like maximalism, surrealism, fantasy set right on the river with waterfalls and a lazy river, and these cabins that perch just right above the river. And it's just beautiful and well done. I just found it on Airbnb. I was like, I'd like to live there. So I moved in, and we started working together up there to promote his property. We worked together on that. And then, you know, this is a good anecdote or story about failure, because what happened then, it was just as I was leaving unsettled as a W-2 employee. So like, I was figuring out what was going to come next. So he and we got this really, really big idea in our head, which is still a great idea. to build 4 hotels along the path of what's called the train Maya, right? Which is going to open in a year or so. It's a 1,200 kilometer high-speed train around the Yucatan Peninsula, right? So it starts in Cancun, goes all the way down the Riviera Maya.
Yeah, it's going to facilitate development.
Through the jungle. Exactly. And so our concept was, okay, there's nothing in most of these places. Let's create a brand that will offer a world-class hospitality experience to somebody who wants to come see that part of Mexico.
Yeah, but you're saying, I know it's so, I know the thought doesn't come to your mind, but I got to call something out. You know,
sure,
gurus and whatever the hell you want to call it, they keep talking about the reticular activating system, or the part of your brain that's your radar when you see an opportunity. Like, you know, if you and I haven't seen a red Honda Accord today, but as soon as I say it, we'll see 30 red Honda Accords because they're all over the place. You do an Airbnb, you're talking to this person. Where does even the thought from you to, like, you know what, I can potentially partner with this person to do A, B, and C. This is the thing. You are oriented. That's why I love your intersection of values. You're oriented towards opportunity. You saw something. This is what people don't see. People don't see opportunity smacking them right in the face. It's looking at them right in the face and they don't see it. But where does that come from? And how did you recognize that, like, wait a minute, I can really do something here with this person?
Well, the on-ramp was, he's a builder, right? He's an architect. He's a general contractor. He's run job sites all over Mexico. So he had that part of it squared away, and he's well underway in Veracruz on his project. I'm a marketer. I've worked for Airbnb. I've launched my own travel companies. I worked for Unsettled. I've experience across hospitality and tourism, but my background and my skill set is in marketing, right? I can do every aspect of marketing, from SEO to paid acquisition to brand marketing to content, across the board. Like, I just know marketing.
That skill set is really opening doors for you.
Marketing and sales. I'm a salesman. I'm a marketer. So that was the role I took at his project in Veracruz, right? Which was like a very bite-sized, so spiffing up the Airbnb product, looking for other distribution, content, getting the content up to speed, right? The photos and the videos. And, what happened was I realized, like, okay, it's just Veracruz, it's not the right destination. So alongside that, he's I already said this, and I'll emphasize again, he's a big thinker. So when we started talking about Yucatan and this big project that's happening there, like, both of us were like, cool, let's fly out there and check it out. And we did. And we did a big old road trip around, and, like, I had probably $1,200 in my bank account at the time, and we were putting, I put $3,000 for that trip on my credit card.
Yeah. And
what I realized was, I'm a risk taker, probably, more than anybody I know, but, like, risks have to be, assessed, and they have to be measured against the chance of success. Right. And, like, what I came to realize was, like, this is just way too big a project. I even had people that wanted to put cash in. I probably had about 100K, like, soft circle for people who wanted to invest. But, like, I didn't know the area, right? Like, I didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah.
The key is the area. Like here, like I told you, my advisor, he's the former mayor of the town. He knows everybody.
He knows it. You found the person that knows the stuff instead of just spinning.
Exactly. So, like, here is just a place where I know what needs to be done, and I know how to do it. That said, like, I'm taking almost the opposite approach that you took, right? Like, you built up a portfolio of single family homes, and then you got into multifamily, and now, I think you're 46, right? And, like, you have a very successful career in real estate, and now you're doing ground up real estate development. I'm taking the opposite approach, which is still kind of scary.
Yeah.
This is one of the hardest things to do, I think, in entrepreneurship is buy a piece of land and build it up, from the ground. But the economics obviously are excellent when you pull it off. And, it's exciting, man. I'm a builder. I'm a builder, just like you're a builder. And
yeah, brother. I mean, you from as you called it, from going to a rinky-dink community school, wherever you were, to being a builder in fucking Mexico. Like, it's just, I love your journey, man. And let me just highlight a few things, because I know I try to highlight things for people to kind of grab onto. Sure. The one thing, when you were talking about the commercial property that Vibra is the hospitality concept that you're going to do, people are still confusing nomadic people as taking vacations. It's not vacation. It's just life. I tell people all the time that my goal, especially when I coach people, is to help people build a lifestyle they don't need a vacation from. You don't take vacation. I know you. You don't take, I know of you, but I feel like I know you. You don't take vacations. You just go live your life wherever it's going to be, right? In Mexico or South Africa or back in the US or whatever. It's not new, but I think COVID brought such attention and energy to the point of you don't have to be static in this life the way that we were kind of raised to be static, right? So your hospitality concept is no joke. I love that. And then the fact that you are developing it, you paid attention to opportunity. That's why I like your values. The fact that you're developing it along that rail system or what have you that's coming into the east, that part of the country, you're getting ahead of opportunity. People are going to come there at some point. If people can recognize opportunity, assess the risk, like you say, but at some point you have to jump and just do the shit. People are
well, here's the important clarification. Here's the important clarification. So the train Maya is up in the Yucatan. So I'm not up in the Yucatan anymore.
Okay.
I said that's too risky.
Okay.
So I came back down to Oaxaca. But along those lines, man, like, you know, if you want to talk about why this is a good opportunity, I already mentioned how tourism is shifting from the Mayan Riviera down here to Oaxaca, right?
Yeah.
So where I'm building, it's an hour and 10 minutes from an international airport that has flights from Canada, flights from the US. That's only going to grow, right? Like the town that I'm building in, as opposed to all these other destinations that started as little fishing villages, the town where I'm building has the infrastructure to support growth, right? It has a grid system, it has water, it has electricity. The roads themselves are built for this kind of traffic. So like you have to look at all of those things as you do, you know, really careful analysis of where you want to place your bets, right? So, you know, I've just reached a point in my life where I understand, and because I've traveled the world assessing risk professionally for my travel business, like, man, you got to just really, really weigh, you know, how much risk am I taking? And what's the upside? And like, obviously minimizing the former and maximizing the latter.
That's awesome, man.
Unfair advantages.
I love that. When you said you're setting up for unfair advantages, there's a book called Money Master the Game. It's one of the 5 books that I always recommend. And in that book, it's is it Ray Dalio? I think it's Ray Dalio who talks about asymmetric risk reward. And if I invest $1, I want to take a risk that I'm going to make $5 because that means I could fail 4 deals and break even as long as I get one of those deals done. And when you talk about setting up for unfair advantage, you're giving yourself leverage, which is phenomenal. Let me ask you a very practical question as we wrap up. So you're obviously in Mexico and stuff. People have this impression of what do I do when I get to living somewhere? What are you doing for like healthcare and just like normal people stuff, right? Like how do you deal with healthcare? How do you deal with dental? Do you come back to the US for that stuff? Are you doing it down there? How does it work for you?
Sure. So I had another W-2 job in between Unsettled and what I'm doing now. And I just left that W-2 in April as I bought these 2 pieces of land and really started to go all in on real estate. So now I jumped into the Obama marketplace and I picked up, I don't know, the healthcare. I don't know if they did it by design or not, but it's $420.69 a month, which is kind of hilarious. They hit Elon Musk for weed and for the other thing too. But all that to say, like, that's healthcare. I mean, healthcare is so cheap down here that I never even tap into it. Like when I need to go to the dentist, I just, I mean, God forbid anything big comes up, then, I've got the health insurance back in the States for Medivac,
like the big stuff.
Facility in Miami that's going to, treat whatever needs to get taken care of.
No doubt. And it seems like a basic thing to bring up, but I'm trying to dispel to people this notion of like, it's too expensive to go live the lifestyle that you want to live. No, just get out there and do it. Dan's doing it. I'm doing it because I got a residency, or I just about have it because I have business concerns in Cyprus. I could get a residency permit. Because I got a residency permit, I'm paying into Social Security. And because I pay into their Social Security, I can get their healthcare. Now
That's
I have
part of the
lifetime.
EU, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Now I have lifetime healthcare because of military, but that's really U.S. based. I'm not going to use it over there, but I'm just saying, like, if I need to go to a hospital or something, I'm covered. So you can live life the way you want to live. It's just a choice. You just got to learn how to do it, dude. Your journey, your mindset, your values, opportunity, your intersection of values around opportunity and traveling and repairing the world, like, it's phenomenal. If you were to tell someone or give someone one piece of advice relative to trying life on their way, because there are people who want to do different shit in life, and I want to caveat something. Dan and I are travelers. We are explorers. I think we're more explorers than we are travelers because we just want different experiences out of life. This is not a travel show. We are not talking about traveling. What we are talking about is living life for experiences, relationships, opportunity. And sometimes those opportunities are not in the United States, sometimes, but they could be right down the street too. So just given your unreal journey, what would be a piece of advice that you would give to someone who's trying to try life on their way?
I mean, keep the W-2 for a while. You know, you're the perfect example of that, man. You know, my brother, who I mentioned, who lives in Athens, he did very well purchasing a couple of homes, and now he operates them as Airbnbs. And that guy's one of the hardest workers I know. When both Airbnbs are rented for the University of Georgia football games, he just takes off in his truck and goes and sleeps in the back, you know, and rents out both of them. And he's got an 11-year-old kid that he loves more than anything in the world. So he's a traveler at heart. He's ridden his bicycle across the United States and from Mexico to Canada through the Colorado Rockies and et cetera, et cetera. But like, that he's an explorer, he's a traveler, but his life experience has led him down a different path. But he still sees the value in pushing beyond his W-2 to set himself up for success later in life. When his kid's 18, he'll be 50, I don't know, 2 or something, maybe even not even that old. No, younger, he'll be like 48. He'll be your age. Yeah. You know, that guy's going to have money in the bank, and he's still going to have health, and he's still going to have wealth, and he's going to go out and do some amazing things. So like, people are in all different life situations. I mean, I don't have any kids, you know, so I've been able to, and I also come from the privilege of, like, my mom saved my ass a couple of times when I've just been dead broke, and I've been able to go home, you know, and stay at her place, or she's given me some capital to kind of get back on my feet. And that's a privilege, you know, because there's a lot of people out there that they bootstrap their entire life. But, you know, like, you don't have to, the shiny things get you into trouble a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You know, the flying all over the world to do this or do that, you know, and have experiences, and like, you kind of you can end up, you know, more lost than when you started. And that's happened to me. That's happened to me many times.
Me too. Like, me too. You know, I admit that.
The people who find fulfillment, you know, right where they live, and the fulfillment is their own personal value system of what gets them up in the morning and gets them excited and makes them feel like they're contributing to their community. Those people, I'm sometimes envious of them. You know, the people who just, they live in their town, and they're, you know, contributing, and they're, you know, making money, and they're seeing their kids go off and get educations. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, boy.
Nope. No,
you know, nothing wrong with that.
There's all kinds of different lifestyles there. And just like Dan was talking about, there's all kinds of people, like, who are entrepreneurially minded in the manner that we are. But like my own journey, I stayed in the regular corporate career and police officer and military stuff for 25 years, but I was still building in the background, having all these experiences. Your experience is uniquely different, but similar minded from man, there's opportunity in this world. I want to go out and seek it. I want to go try life on. And that's what draws me to you as a person. And I'm going to re-highlight again. I think I'm saying it for the 10th time. This intersection of values topic is really important because you said you look for opportunity. You are a traveler. You do have this notion of repairing the world. And one of the fundamental questions I get asked a lot is, Mo, how do you partner with people? That's how. You find out someone's value system. And if their values match your values, then there's something to talk about. It's when I'm a little bit off topic, but it's when people talk to me about, yo, let's go make some money together. Money's a tool, brother. I'm not really, like, I want to make money as a consequence of
you've got enough money, man. I'd imagine you've got enough money where you're set. You know, I know it's important for you to set your kid up. You know, I see it on Instagram, you guys lifting together, you guys at the beach house. Like, you're probably, because you're not a guy that's out there chasing billions, you know that millions or whatever. I'm not going to ask you how much money you have. You got enough.
It's fleeting.
And you're using it. Hell yeah. Yeah.
Well, and you know what? I'll say this. Yeah, I do have enough, but I have enough because my value system says that enough means you have more passive income than you have bills. And I didn't chase the shiny thing. I still drive my 2005 Infiniti with almost 200,000 miles on it. My primary home is paid off. I never bought the $2 million house. I bought the $400,000 house and paid it off. It's because I have income above my expenses. Yes, I have money because I have time. I have time to go compound my shit and make things grow, but I want to do it with people who have value systems similar to yours. That's why I wanted to get you on the podcast, brother. I am so in awe of what you're doing, man, and I'm grateful for this new friendship, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast with me.
Cheers. Well, thanks so much, Mo. Thanks to everybody for listening in, and I could share just PearsonExpeditions.com is my travel company. For anybody who's interested.
Is it Puritan?
What's that? No, Pierson, like my last name.
Oh, Pierson.
It's my last name. Yeah. Pierson. So it's P as in Peter, IERSON, expeditions.com. And those are rooftop tent camping safaris in Southern Africa. So it's 5 nights of camping out under the stars, really intimate experiences like elephants coming through the camp. You're camping on top of these Land Cruisers and driving the vehicles yourself, and then 4 nights in lodges. So it's a much more kind of out there, wild, intimate African safari experience. And then, I mean, the real estate thing, to give you a sense of where I am, I mean, I just bought these 2 pieces of land. Like, I'm working as hard as I can to get, the pieces into place, whether that's bringing the topographers out, cleaning the land. We're reforesting right now. That's something that gets to my value system is we're reforesting. Nice.
Repairing
because most people are exactly, man. Most people are coming here and they're cutting down trees. Fuck that. I'm planting more trees. And, you just see the business of the business benefits of that just manifest because people want to be under shade. How are you going to find shade if you cut down all the trees? Doesn't make sense.
That's it.
So it's long-term thinking, right? It's not, chasing a quick buck. And so that business, you can follow it on Instagram. It's at vibra.mex. And that, there will be a lot more to come there. So, I'm on Instagram. So I'm sure in the show notes, it will my be Instagram or LinkedIn, and you could follow me there. But I'm looking forward. I mean, I listened to the last show with William Ang. Is that his name?
Yeah, Willie Ang. Yeah, from Singapore. Yeah.
That guy's doing big things. So I'm excited to keep checking out the podcast and hopefully meeting some of your some of the folks who are on and some of the folks who are listening. And yeah, it's great to be with you, man.
I appreciate it, brother. I'll see you down in Mexico soon. Thank you, Dan Pierson, for joining the Try Life On podcast, and we'll be talking to you soon. Hey guys, this is Maurice, host of the Try Life On podcast, and thank you for listening to another episode. I hope you are finding it useful and helping you design your own lifestyle that you don't need a vacation from. If that's the case, please consider dropping a review for me, whether in Apple, iTunes, or in Spotify. Drop a review, put some stars on it, give me some feedback on how I can make the podcast better, what information you are looking for. I am doing my best to get information to you on the Try Life On principles, the 5 freedoms, how to build lifestyle, travel hacking, all of it. And I want to do it for you. So please do a review for me. And until next time, my name is Maurice Philogene, and this is the Try Life On podcast. Peace.